The subtle shift in the corporate climate became undeniable the afternoon Christian Sterling held his inaugural town hall, casually throwing around buzzwords like algorithmic synergy while adjusting his tailored double-breasted suit. Having dedicated 20 years to cultivating the logistical backbone of Aerogrid dynamics, I recognized immediately that this silver-spooned executive possessed the unearned arrogance of someone who inherited an empire rather than building it from a drafty airport hangar. I vividly remembered a time when our global tracking network was anchored by nothing more than unstable local servers and sheer determination long before the influx of venture capital transformed us into a multinational powerhouse. Our legendary founder, Captain Thaddeus Finch, always reminded me that structured protocols ensure longevity, which is why he ensured that every operational shift we implemented was backed by a rigorous notarized paper trail. Though my official title was Director of Core Infrastructure, my true role within the company was navigating the delicate intersections of international compliance, supply chain gridlocks, and legal disputes that would paralyze lesser executives. However, when Captain Finch suffered a debilitating stroke that left him isolated in a private medical facility, the panicked board of directors hastily transferred leadership to Christian, his tech bro nephew who genuinely believed artificial intelligence could replace legal oversight. From the moment Christian stepped into the executive suite with his designer loafers and performative humility, I could feel the invisible clock counting down the remaining days of my historic tenure. As my digital access permissions began mysteriously restricting, and junior analysts started clumsily copying me on emails instead of consulting me, I overheard him telling human resources that my methodology belonged in an industrial museum. What Christian failed to realize was that being underestimated provides a rare, quiet window of time to meticulously audit the ancient archives and unearth forgotten legal architecture. Decades ago, Captain Finch and I established an absolute safeguard within the foundation documents of the firm, embedding a dormant, highly specialized clause designed to protect the company from reckless, nepotistic leadership. Instead of fighting the toxic cultural shift, I silently observed as Christian replaced our veteran compliance officers with his former university fraternity brothers, who knew absolutely nothing about international shipping laws. While he converted our exhaustive internal knowledge base into a chaotic messaging channel for his personal thoughts, I quietly renewed my independent notary license and carefully organized a 19-page indemnity agreement from 2011. The predictable ambush occurred on a dreary Tuesday morning at exactly 7:50, a calculated tactic designed by a coward who lacked the fortitude for an actual professional confrontation. I was stepping out of the elevator when the notification popped up for an immediate synchronization meeting in the main glass boardroom, leaving absolutely no room for preparation or contextual review. Christian sat cross-legged at the long mahogany table, smugly sipping an organic green juice beside a visibly distressed human resources director, who could barely look me in the eye. He wasted absolutely no time on pleasantries, offering a condescending smile as he announced that the firm had decided to sunset my position as part of an aggressive modernization initiative. I merely tilted my head in absolute silence, watching him dismiss 2 decades of grueling institutional labor as if he were simply deprecating an obsolete piece of software. He dragged out the word legacy like an insult, completely unaware that his patronizing final lecture was providing me with the exact legal confirmation I required. Walking out of the glass building with my personal belongings felt like an incredibly slow, silent procession, as my former colleagues deliberately averted their gaze to avoid association. Once inside the sanctuary of my car, I released a single controlled wave of frustration before opening my mobile banking application to confirm that my final severance deposit had been officially cleared. With the precise timestamp of that transaction secured, I immediately drove to an independent notary to have my formal declaration of operational dispute officially certified and sealed. I then dispatched a specialized legal courier service with explicit instructions to deliver the confidential activation packet directly into the hands of our general counsel, bypassing all standard administrative channels. Sitting in a coffee shop across the street, I watched through the tinted windows as Christian exited the lobby, laughing carelessly with a newly appointed strategy architect who probably couldn't define a basic fiduciary duty. He had absolutely no idea that the document currently entering our legal department was an official execution notice of Section 9.4 of the Sovereign Indemnity Protocol. This highly restrictive clause, which I had personally helped Captain Finch draft during a hostile takeover scare, dictated that any unilateral termination of foundational staff without total board approval would instantly trigger a 72-hour operational reversion, unless a unanimous written override from the incapacitated founder was produced. All executive authority would automatically transfer to an independent protector designated within the private family trust. While Christian celebrated my departure by posting memes about corporate spring cleaning in the public chat rooms, I was receiving clandestine screenshots of his arrogance from loyal staffers who despised his management style. He even hosted an extravagant catered lunch to toast the elimination of what he called structural friction, entirely oblivious to the monumental legal landslide heading straight for his corner office. That afternoon, our general counsel attempted to flag the massive compliance anomaly with Christian's assistant, but the arrogant young executive simply dismissed the warning while adjusting his social media profiles. He falsely assumed that the ancient governing documents had been successfully digitized and nullified years ago, failing to realize that I had meticulously recertified that exact reversion clause during every single triennial audit. The legal courier's GPS tracker confirmed delivery exactly at noon, placing the indisputable paper trail, historical timestamps, and certified declaration squarely into the possession of the corporate legal team. Later that evening, a brief high-stakes email arrived from the general counsel requesting confirmation of the protocol's execution, to which I replied with an official, time-stamped confirmation signed with my professional regards. By Thursday afternoon, the internal chaos intensified as Christian rashly terminated 3 additional senior executives and replaced them with unqualified social media influencers. The entire organization was operating on sheer panic, with whispers spreading through the departments after an anonymous IT whistleblower leaked that Christian was actively attempting to backdate my termination paperwork to manipulate the 72-hour window. My personal security folder grew larger by the hour, filling with archived recordings of Captain Finch discussing succession and a hilarious video of Christian mispronouncing basic corporate law terminology during a live stream. As the highly anticipated Monday morning board meeting arrived, Christian paced the room in a casual fleece vest, completely unaware that his polished presentation on decentralized growth was about to collapse. The atmosphere in the boardroom turned completely freezing the moment the general counsel interrupted his speech to present a thick, leather-bound folder containing the validated indemnity protocol. Christian scoffed loudly, claiming that the board shouldn't waste time on a dusty ceremonial footnote discovered by an embittered former employee who refused to modernize. The general counsel quickly corrected his arrogance, explaining with absolute gravity that the clause was not only fully enforceable, but that the 72-hour deadline was rapidly approaching its final expiration. The board members sat in stunned, breathless silence as they realized that Christian had unilaterally triggered an unoverridable governance trap by firing the one person who managed the founder's estate. When the emergency session reconvened on Tuesday morning, Christian's polished facade had completely dissolved into a sweaty, unshaven display of pure corporate panic. The general counsel placed a sealed historical envelope on the table, explaining that it contained the unedited identity of the sole successor appointed by Captain Finch back in 2019. As the single sheet of ivory paper was slowly circulated around the room, an irreversible realization settled over the faces of the stunned board members. Christian demanded that they read the name aloud, stumbling backward in absolute disbelief as the board chair quietly announced that Eleanor Vance. By mid-morning, my phone was inundated with desperate, trembling voicemails from Christian pleading for a collaborative restructuring meeting to resolve what he called a minor misunderstanding. I completely ignored his desperate overtures, allowing the corporate media to catch wind of the executive instability while internal staff openly questioned his leadership in the public networks. At exactly 8 o'clock, I stepped into the glass boardroom wearing a tailored black suit that radiated absolute authority, instantly shifting the gravity of the room without uttering a single word. As the board unanimously voted to formalize the transition of power, I handed a stunned Christian his pre-signed separation agreement and whispered his own words back to him, noting that his final lesson in corporate humility had officially concluded. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.